of you to volunteer for an all-nighter. I'll be with you for the first section, but then I'm off. I've got tickets for Smiling Toots Johnson and his jazz fandango. Usual stuff for this one. Keep the show on the road and keep the edit snappy. Should be a big night.
I've told you 1,000 times, Chester. It's the number of blind dates I've been on when no one has turned up, followed by the worrying number of lumps under my left arm, the date my childhood sweetheart married my best friend, the age my cat was when I ran him over, the number of conversations I've had with my father, and the exact time my mother walked out. Honestly, I don't see why it's so hard for you to remember.
If you could just sit here, please, Dr. Magnus. The host will be with you shortly.
Not you, sometimes.
Leave that alone, please, Colin.
I don't like it. Gives me the heebie-jeebies.
What does? Science?
Don't like it.
What doesn't Colin like?
Science, apparently.
Oh, good job that's done here then.
Jeremy, this is Dr. Charles Magnus.
Is he though? Jeremy Donaldson, professional cynic.
All the best minds are.
He's just being modest. He's also a curmudgeon.
Your word of the day calendar.
Oh, sorry I'm late. Phone call. Professor Magnus.
Doctor, apparently.
Either is fine.
Unless you mean surgery.
I beg your pardon?
It's time for a special event.
Going in 5, 4, 3.
With Jeremy Donaldson.
Good evening. I'm Jeremy Donaldson.
And I'm Megan Wolfe. It's the 13th of March 1985, and this is a Channel 1 special event hosted by your national nightly news team.
In a laboratory nestled in the sleepy hills of Chantlebury, Dr. Charles Magnus and his optimistically named Happiness Collective have been working on a secret project.
They claim their Euphoria device will raise overall happiness levels throughout the country. Tonight, live on Channel 1, we'll be putting that claim to the test.
We'll be in and out the schedule throughout the evening, with our team of reporters standing by up and down the country to report live on whether the device has brought a smile to your faces.
We'll have guests from the world of science, politics and entertainment, and of course, those all-important results.
So don't move that dial, stick with Channel 1 all evening as we bring you The Night of Smiles.
Welcome back. In just a few minutes, the impressive machine behind me will be activated in the first ever mass experiment of its type. But first, let's meet the man behind the merriment, Dr. Charles Magnus.
Hello.
Charles Magnus.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. You're the leader of the Happiness Collective, as I understand.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
So how's that work then, being the leader of a collective?
Well, I suppose...
Dr. Magnus, how does your Euphoria device work?
Oh, that's simple. I just get my assistant Chester to push the big red button.
Yes, but what does it actually do?
It makes people happier, Mr. Donaldson.
Yes, and how does it do that?
Well, some of that information is proprietary, but I could try and explain the basics.
Oh, well, we've not got long now, Doc, so try not to get too into the weeds.
Well, to put it simply, everything is vibration. Everything is vibrating. A particle is also a wave, and a wave is, if you like, a note. And we all vibrate at different notes depending on our mood. Happier people vibrate at a higher frequency than sad people, for example.
Is that true? How are we measuring that?
In music, there's a concept called resonance. When a note on a piano is played, corresponding strings also sound. They vibrate in resonance. Are you following me so far?
Yes, I have an O-level in music.
And physics?
Yes, in both.
Well, the Euphoria device works in much the same way. The machine generates a note that represents happiness, and all the people and the animals resonate with that note and feel happier, noticeably, measurably. Well, at least that's the hope.
So, what you're saying is that for unprecedented amounts of public money, running into the tens of millions, you've built a giant piano that only plays one note.
Yes, but it's a very powerful note. And this is the only instrument that can play it.
There is less than a minute to go now, so while we go and get set up with Chester and yourself over at the Euphoria device, we can go live to the new Advance HQ for a special message from the Prime Ministers, Peter Clement and Julia Salisbury.
Good evening, everybody. On behalf of Advance, Julia and I just wanted to wish all of you the very best of luck with tonight's groundbreaking experiment.
When this project landed on my desk, I just knew it deserved to be funded. After all, what could possibly be better than increased happiness?
Now, I'll admit, I was a little sceptical, but the lab results are promising, and I'm reliably informed it'll even work on Mrs. C.
So it's a big well done from us to Dr. Magnus and the entire team at the Happiness Collective.
So as my old man used to say, it's time to stop twatting about and get the gimlet frothing.
Wow. Good luck, everybody. Back to the studio.
Fantastic, the Prime Minister's there, and of course, without the funding from the Assets and Wealth Fund...
We'd still be making prototypes out of sticks.
And you are Chester.
Chester Mims, 24. My allergies include nuts, macrame furniture, and liquids with a viscosity over 200 centipoise. I've been Dr. Magnus's assistant for...
3 very long years.
Yes, he calls me his right-hand man.
I do not.
Well, that's enough lab banter for now. Let's see if this ridiculous contraption actually works, shall we?
Yes, I think we can get a counter on the screen. And we're going in 10, 9, 8, 7, come on, Jeremy.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1...
Winston, I can sense movement down there. I know you're stuck in this with me. Now, it's just a guess, but I think time itself has frozen. However, when it did, this press in case of emergency button the scientist gave me started flashing. And I think it corresponds with the one you have down there in the broadcast room, on that weird-looking machine to your left. I'll press mine now, and let's see if that gets yours working. Winston, lovely of you to volunteer for an all-nighter. I'll be with you for the first section, but then I'm off. Got tickets for Smiling Toots Johnson and his Jazz Fandango. Does this all seem a little familiar to you, Alex? For the last few hours, I've been having a weird sensation of déjà vu. Strange. Maybe I need a snack? Well, good luck with the show.
I've told you 1,000 times, Chester. It's the number of blind dates I've been on when no one has turned up, followed by the worrying number of lumps under my left arm, the date my childhood sweetheart married my best friend, the age my cat was when I ran him over, the number of conversations I've had with my father, and the exact time my mother walked out. Honestly, I don't see why it's so hard for you to remember.
If you could just...
Hang on, this is extremely familiar.
Not you, sometimes.
Leave that alone, please, Colin.
Don't like it. Gives me the heebie-jeebies.
What does science?
Don't like it.
What doesn't Colin like?
Science, apparently.
Oh, good job there's none here then.
Jeremy, this is Dr. Charles Magnus.
Is he though? Jeremy Dawson, professional cynic.
All the best minds are.
He's just being modest. He's also a curmudgeon.
Your word of the day calendar.
Oh, sorry, I'm late. Phone call. Professor Magnus.
Doctor, apparently.
Oh.
Either is fine.
Unless you mean surgery.
Now on Channel
I beg
1,
your pardon?
It's time for a special event.
Going in
Regular
5,
schedule away
4,
for a night of
3.
smiles with Jeremy Donaldson.
Good evening. I'm Jeremy Dawson.
And I'm Megan Wolfe. It's the 13th of March, 1985, and this is a Channel 1 special
Yesterday
event
was the
hosted
13th
by
of
the
March.
National Nightly News Team.
In a laboratory nestled in the sleepy hills of Chantlebury, Dr. Charles Magnus and his optimistically named Happiness
Okay,
Collective
we are definitely doing the same thing again,
They
Winston.
claim their
And I didn't enjoy it much the
device
first
will
time,
raise overall
much
happiness
as I hate to
levels
admit it,
throughout the
because,
country.
and I want to make this
Tonight's live on Channel
absolutely
1
clear,
will be putting
I
this claim to
hate
the test.
science fiction.
handing out the
I think
schedule
something
for
has gone wrong with the chronological order of reality, and we appear to be repeating ourselves.
to your physics.
If only there were a
We'll have
name for
guests
such a
from the
phenomenon.
world of science,
When
politics,
time
and
seems to be
entertainment, and of
looping.
course, those
There must be some sort of
So
snappy.
move that dial, stick a channel on or
Can't think of
we
anything.
bring you
Maybe it'll come to me later.
smiles.
Got it. We'll call this a time loop. Brilliant name, Robert. You've done it again. I should have that trademark. Yes, time loop. Time loop. Time. Bit boring, isn't it, Winston? The event, I mean, not the name, which is snappy and totally original. But you know, this, just watching the same thing. Winston, I have a big red button up here. I'm going to push it. Let's see what happens. Ah, it's made your big button light up. Push your big red button, Alex, and let's see what it does. Okay, so your button also stops time. Interesting. Right, we've all read enough science fiction nonsense to understand what's happening here. We're clearly going to keep repeating this day again and again until we find a way to break the loop. God, I hope we don't have to go on a journey of self-discovery full of profound insights that lead to personal growth. I have a gig to get to. Leave this with me. I have a brilliant idea. Restart the loop by pressing that big red button again and leave the rest to me. Ah, Winston, back with me now. While I was waiting for you to get back to me in the loop, I enacted the solution to our little time-getting-stuck conundrum. There is absolutely no way that button will be pressed again, so the loop won't repeat, and the ghastly problem has been nipped in the bud before anything too ridiculous happens. I don't want to brag here, Alex, but the solution I found is as elegant as it is simple. A lesser mind would probably have struggled even to conceive of such a notion, but to me, Bob Bozeman, it was as obvious as wearing a tie on a Sunday afternoon. I have, and this is the brilliant part, unplugged the machine. Now, watch and learn.
I've told you 1,000 times, Chester. It's the number of blind dates I've been on when no one's turned up, followed by the worrying number of lumps under my left arm, the date my childhood sweetheart married my best friend, the age my cat was when I ran him over, the number of conversations I've had with my father, and the exact time my mother walked out. Honestly, I don't see why that's so hard for you to remember.
If you could just sit here, please, Dr. Magnus. The host will be with you shortly.
It's all going to plan.
Sorry, Dr. Magnus.
Leave that alone, please, Colin.
There's something wrong here.
No, it's fine, Colin.
You can feel it. Is this like the day that you could feel that the mayor of Fiddleshire was some sort of bird person?
No, this is different. Here we go.
No! My plan! It was foolproof!
There we go. Good news.
Colin, you're...
Well, I think it's fairly obvious that did not go to plan, but no point dwelling on who's at fault for what. Let's focus on the task at hand. We'll look at the problem together this time, Alex, and I'm sure we'll come up with the solve. So, I've given you this newfangled pad of mine. It was a gift from the Happiness Collective. Hopefully you noticed it last loop. Apparently, when I write up here, you'll be able to see it down there, which is brilliant. But as far as the science behind it goes, it may as well be magic as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I'll write down some ideas for plans, and if you just select them on your pad, I'll make sure we implement them for the next loop. Give it a go now. They can't press the button if they aren't doing the experiment, and I've got the perfect replacement show. Right, I've pressed my button up here. If you're happy with your choice, just press your red button on the contraption to your left, and it should reset the loop for us. Then I'll get to work. I know what you're thinking, Alex. What possible merit could the Cat Football Cup have being on Channel 1? And of course, the answer is they were available and it gets us out of this damn time loop.
No, they take it very seriously.
Oh, of course they do.
Apparently, they hate each other.
Oh, of course they do.
Ancient enmities of bad blood.
They sound like an awful rock album.
Sorry, I'm late. Furball.
Apparently they hate each other.
They do. They absolutely do hate each other.
Oh, well, this should be fun.
Well, while I am glad that these pseudoscientists defected the Hammerman's lot on Channel 3,
What's
I
that
think
now?
Bozeman should be congratulated on possibly finding something that's even worse.
He's not a cat person.
I'm not a pet person.
I always assumed you'd keep fish.
Domestic parasites.
10 seconds. What, fish?
No, all the hairy little terrorists.
That's what the crew call you.
Going in 5,
Jeremy Donaldson
4,
and Megan Hall are taking
3.
a deep dive into the wonderful world of sport.
Good evening, viewers of Channel 1, and welcome to this National Nightly News special event.
Tonight, for one night only, we're bringing you everything you need to know about this year's Cat Football Cup final.
We'll have interviews with the coaches, managers, and even the star players. Not quite sure how it's going to work, but I guess we'll find out.
Our roving team of reporters have been tucked away up and down the country to bring you live reactions and pre-match fever.
And, of course, at 9 we'll have all the action of the match itself, live, right here on Channel 1.
So don't go changing that channel. It's going to be perfect here on Channel 1.
I had to knock these titles together in a bit of a hurry, but I'm actually quite happy with how they turned out.
Welcome back. I'm delighted to be joined by the two coaches of tonight's Cat Football final. And I believe you're also the managers.
And the owners.
Yes.
And I would imagine most of the spectators.
Let's start with you. Felicity.
Snippety Whippet, Felicity Snippety Whippet. I am the manager, coach, owner, spiritual guide and muse for my team, the inimitable little Smallington Big Paws.
That's a name that gives you pause for thought.
It's a family name, actually. The Big Paws have legacy, unlike those so-called fluffers.
The Slingtown Fluffers have plied their skills against superior teams than yours and always achieve proud ends. Tonight should be no different. Expect a tumescent trouncing, Fliss.
Felicity. Felicity, as well you know, you putrid pink prat.
Oh, well, let's just take a moment to breathe. I can see we're both keen competitors, but let's try and keep a friendly catmosphere.
Of course, apologies. Montgomery Fortune, manager of the Fluffers, soon to be proud fondler of the Cat Football Cup. A man more sinned against than sinning.
Oh, the Big Paws will hold the cup. We've been training all season and we're not slowing down at the finish line. You stand as much chance of winning the cup as Professor Tiddles does of winning a beauty pageant.
You take that back. You know Professor Tiddles only sprouted that blemish because you tried to poison him.
I would never, ever harm a cat. They are divine, graceful, elegant, everything you should strive to be.
I think the sprightly Mercutio I performed in my mess-bent youth would beg to disagree. Besides, your centre-forward has mange.
Oh, have you glanced at your team recently? They're more verbal than fancy footwork, and their teamwork is so chaotic it's like playing against dogs.
You take that back.
Never. In fact, I'll go further. Your team is lazy, disorganized, and matted. You'd have done better to get them all spayed.
Well, we seem to be a whisker away from a fistfight here.
Will you stop with the cat puns?
I concur. If we could all just calm down, please.
Can't stop meow. I've got too many of these.
So, both of you, I have a question. Cats. They're pointless, really, aren't they?
So, I was right. It turns out that when I turned down the Euphoria experiment for Channel 1, Channel 3 decided they'd make room, and the experiment went ahead as planned. And, well, unless they have their own Alex Winston to press that red button, we may be stuck here forever. But But assuming we're not, let's talk about next time round. I suppose if we're going to be stuck here, we may as well get to know each other. We'll start with me. Did you know that I like mushroom? Also, things like the feel of dew on your face in the hills of the Cotsdowns, or a brisk autumn morn. Although, to be honest, some of those I can kind of take or leave. Ooh, here's another one. Did you know that I love the sound of smooth jazz? If you ask me, very little in this world can beat an afternoon alone with the rhythms. Listen, I have a question for you. Do you like the feeling when a man you don't know particularly well brushes against you in the corridor and suddenly you feel a stirring in the... Oh, thank goodness. You were starting to get a little strange there, Alex. Let's just move on. Less said the better. They must have reset time at 3. Didn't think Dorothy Hammerman had it in her. But anyway, I have to confess, Winston, I had a bit of fun with this one. You see, it had to be something serious enough to actually empty the studio, but not so serious that people would be worried once they were safely away. And then, my eureka moment. I put on a strange voice and called in a bomb threat. Brilliant, isn't it? They've evacuated the whole building. Now, all we have to do is simply wait and... Seems this may have been one of your more short-sighted ideas, Alex. Not to worry, we'll fix it for the next loop. Speaking of, is that your old replacement cleaning the studio now? I wonder if they'll clean the... I'm going to fire that cleaner, but in the meantime, I have a better idea, and it's guaranteed to work.